All right, next up we have a Philly film director. He's made a movie called Green, which you can get at greenthemovie.com. And he's also got a new short up called Christmas Spoiled. Nick Gregorio.
Hey, Matt. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. So I seen Green. I got a copy of it, and it's really, really good. It's one of the tightest independent films I think I've seen. It's
Wow, thank you.
It creates these characters. It feels like within 10-15 minutes you know everything you need to know about these characters, and you just want to see where that story is going to take you. Where did the concept come from, Green? Because I know of your film past was a little bit more sketch comedy-ish, and I didn't know what to expect when I got this movie, and I was really taken aback by the fact that it's a little bit more of an action drama with just hints of comedy than actual comedy.
Well, first I got to shout out Troy Kaplan, my business partner on this. Me and him are childhood friends, and we're also co-writers and co-executive producers. So it kind of stems from an earlier script I had called An American Classic. And I was out in LA, and I was kind of like pitching this concept, a very like Gatsby-ian, Count of Monte Cristo type tale. And I was in a meeting with like this producer, and he was like, "Yeah, I like it. It's good." He was like, "But no one wants to see movies like that." He was like, "You got to sprinkle something on it." And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" He literally said, "You have to sprinkle something on it." He's like, like The Sopranos. It's Shakespeare with some gangsters sprinkled on it. So I leave the meeting. I'm like fuming. And I go home, and I was living with my friend Troy at the time. And Troy is kind of big in the cannabis culture, like the medicinal cannabis culture there. And I was like, I should just make a movie about weed. I'll just sprinkle weed all over An American Classic, and we'll call that a fucking feature. And he's like, well, if you make it a comedy, I'm in. And I was like, really? And I was like, no, I can't do that. Because I'm really not into the cannabis culture, and that's really not my style. And I said, fuck it, let's do it. And we sat down, and we kind of hashed out these characters and this very realistic. I like to take the real world and just put a little bit of a spin on it, so it's not too far away from reality. But
well, and it's an interesting cast of characters. It really is. One of the sponsors of the show is Geekscape, obviously, and you have Jonathan London out there doing the best John Leguizamo impersonation I've ever seen. Like, what kind of favor did you have to call in to get Jonathan to do something that ridiculous?
The character of
when
Horacio,
you wrote that, were you like, this is Jonathan's character? Or?
Everyone in the movie was written for a specific actor.
Right.
That's part of my philosophy with independent filmmaking is I take a budget, I take a cast, and I take a crew, and then I work backwards and develop a script from that. And I kind of, I spoke with Troy and kind of told him I was pitching this idea for a $5,000 feature film.
Mm-hmm.
And I told Jonathan about it. I told Paul Soder from Broken Lizard about it. I said, if you have a large fan base, you can create a movie for no money, sell it directly to them at $5 a DVD, and you will make like $50 million. Like, if you have the large enough fan base. Like, a company like Broken Lizard can make this no-budget movie, sell just to their Facebook fans, and make enough money to finance 10 pictures.
I don't even think Slammin' Salmon or whatever the villain's called even was in theaters.
No.
But everyone that I've talked to who's a Broken Lizard fan has it and has seen it.
Exactly. And that's the concept. But why spend $5 to $10 million when you can spend nothing, like close to nothing with today's technology, and people will still buy it as long as it's done correctly.
Well, I think a lot of people are turning more towards the independents more and more each year. And I know it's cliche to say that, but it's true. Because we've seen what Hollywood can do, and they don't seem, every once in a while you'll get like a Scott Pilgrim or something like that does something really different, but for the most part, everyone I talk to tells me they've been going to the theater less each year and stuff like that, and most of them only spend their money at the Ritz to see the slightly more interesting films that they haven't seen before.
There used to be a stigma about straight to DVD, or straight to on-demand, or straight to the internet, of like, it's going to be a poor quality film.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's very expensive to release a picture in theaters. I mean, with Harris Malden, the first picture that I collaborated with Sweaty Robot, when I was speaking to Landmark Theaters, the people that run the Ritz, they said that you need at least $5 million in marketing dollars for them to show your movie in their theaters. Mm-hmm. That's insane.
Yeah.
Harris Malden's budget was $50,000. Like, where are we going to find another $5 million to make billboards and commercials and advertisements? And they're dead serious. So the reason a lot of movies are going straight to DVD or straight to on demand, it's practicality. It's economical. Like, that's Very simple answer.
There's a group of filmmakers who I'd love to get on the show eventually who did a horror movie, and it's not a very good horror movie, but it's an interesting horror movie called Thanksgiving, about a killer turkey killing people on Thanksgiving.
Wow.
But what's cool is on their website, their movie's available in Best Buy and on Amazon.com and on Netflix. And their website is completely step by step how you can get your own product into Best Buy's, Amazon, and Netflix
Really?
without any studio funding. And I was like, that is the fact that they not only figured out how to do it, but said, fuck it, the entire website for Thanksgiving is going to be dedicated to how to get
Wow.
your movie in a store. Like, I feel like more independent filmmakers need to start working together like that and sharing each other's secrets instead
Yeah.
of. Nothing pisses me off more than when you're talking to a young filmmaker or an up-and-coming filmmaker and you ask them, like, oh, how'd you do this camera trick? And they just don't want to tell you. Like, that's not what you're not Spielberg, you're not Lucas, and even they're telling us how they do shit. Like,
the bottom line is, and I find this to be true all the time, is I can tell you all my secrets. You can take one of my scripts, you can rip off my ideas, but to go out and do it, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot harder. Like, I can tell you, like, yeah, I shot this all in one day, like Christmas Spoiled. We shot all in one day, had a great cast and crew. Everyone worked really hard, but do you really want to shoot an entire short film in one day? Like, that's how you get it done, though. Sometimes that's what it takes.
Well, that was the one advice I got. Last episode, I interviewed Tommy Avalone and his producer, Booch. And, I'd mentioned how Fluffy the Zombie Slayer is still taking 7 years now from the first time it came about. And their advice to me was, well, he said, you've been shooting on weekends, haven't you? And I said, yeah. And he goes, he's like, I've learned that you either make a movie in 2 weeks or you make it over 7 years, because if you divide up too much time, people start losing interest. You have to keep them quickly occupied while their attention span's there and focused.
That's very good advice. Quentin Tarantino has a quote that if you want to make a movie, just go out and make it.
Yeah.
And I took that to heart early on in my film career, because you have to do it. Like, you can't wait for the perfect script, and you can't wait for the perfect set of circumstances. Take what you have, work with that, and then try to develop something that, it doesn't have to be. People know that it's an indie movie, that it's your first movie, it's your second movie. They're not going to see, Attack of the Clones. Like, they're not expecting like 40,000 visual effects shots, and but if you can capture their attention and their imagination for 80 minutes, like, you've won.
Yeah.
Of course, there's always going to be problems, but if you can get them to sit there and watch your entire picture, I mean, you're a success.
Now, Green was shot in both Philly and Los Angeles, correct? Or was it all
Los Angeles?
All Los Angeles, even the scenes in Philly in the beginning.
Yeah, except for there's some B-roll shot with a 16mm Bolex camera.
All right.
And that's when the opening shots of the skyline of Philadelphia, that was shot in Philadelphia, obviously. And shots of Cole, the lead character, when he references his past activities in Philadelphia. That's some Bolex footage, but
that's okay. I didn't know that. I thought that you would, because I remember you being on Geekscape to shoot Jonathan's scenes, and I was like, okay, I guess they shot like a couple days in Philly to get their Philly sequences, and then shot everything else in LA. But see, the magic of filmmaking.
We shot everything in 2.5 weeks straight with the Red camera.
Mm-hmm.
A crew of 3 people, like a sound recorder, a camera operator / cinematographer, Marco Materassi, shout out to him.
Right.
Marco is a big part of why the picture looks as good as it looks. And Troy Kaplan and like Craig DeFrancia as AD, just watching the monitor while I was on camera. And there was no reshoots, so everything that we got, we shot in those 2.5 weeks for Green.
I mean, it's a good film. There's nothing more I can say. Now, where can people listening see the movie?
Well, right now, actually, when this airs, it'll probably be over the contest, but they can go to www.greenthemotionpicture.com and buy a copy of the DVD. But hopefully, when you're hearing this, it will have won the Amazon Studios competition for $100,000. But if it doesn't, oh well.
And are there any other projects around the corner, or are you kind of just doing the short films like Christmas Spoiled for now?
The Christmas Spoiled was, I wanted to utilize the new Canon 5D Mark II, just to get familiar with the equipment, and a new concept that I have for like recording sound with digital recorders and stuff like that. Trying to just work out the kinks in doing a really low budget but still high quality final product. So that's what the Christmas Spoiled was. It's really, I want to do another feature. I think shorts are great. They're a good way to practice and hone your skills. But at the end of the day, people only care about feature films.
Now,
unfortunately, yeah.
You've directed 2 features so far. Happy Birthday, Harris
Malden.
Yeah. I always forget his last name. And Green. Do you think, the next film? Do you think it's going to continue the pathway that Green's gone, or do you think eventually we'll start seeing a little bit more of a merge between the action drama and the kind of sketchy comedy mixed in? Because what's kind of cool about Green is that the way I described it to my one friend was, I said, it's kind of like Pineapple Express if you got rid of the really dumbed down stoner humor.
Exactly. We actually had a joke that never made it to the movie because we didn't want to offend anyone, but there was going to be, in the Garden of Whedon, there was going to be a strain of weed called Pineapple Express.
Yeah.
And a guy goes up to the counter, he's like, can I get, an eighth of Pineapple Express? I'm like, nah, it's really bad. You don't want to try it. You think it's going to make you laugh a lot, but then you hit it and you're just kind of bored and zone out. And we nixed the joke just because we didn't want people to see it and think that we were going to be haters right out of the gate. So, my goal is to create quality pictures. I don't set out to just be like, I'm going to make a comedy.
Yeah.
I'm going to make, Harris Malden I consider a dramedy. It was a lot of, there was, the subject matter on the surface looks very what's this going to be, a slapstick comedy, but it delves deeper into the drama. And I just like telling real stories. And yes, there's exaggerated characters and exaggerated circumstances, but I like keeping things very close to reality, or reality as I see it. I don't know. And the next picture, I'd love to do a Mass Vigilante picture. I'd love to do a gangster picture, a straight up Italian homage gangster picture. And I wouldn't mind doing some kids pictures. I think with doing the Christmas Spoiled and kind of delving into that, old school Goonies kind of. Yeah. It's a G or PG rated picture, but you still have a lot of suspense. You have a lot of drama. The stakes are really high. Where I think entertainment for younger kids is very polished and glossy, and their biggest problem is my cell phone broke, or I'm not a movie star yet. I kind of want to delve into the imagination and fun that I remember are the movies we grew up with were.
Yeah, when I saw Christmas Spoiled, I couldn't help but think it had a lot of elements of Labyrinth and Dark Crystal and Scrooged, and these movies that you saw as kids in the late 80s and early 90s, but they were PG-13 movies, or are almost PG. I think Labyrinth's PG, but it might be PG-13. I can't remember.
It's PG, but it's adult subject matter. There's no cursing or nudity, but everything else is. Those movies came with such deeper concepts. I mean, I didn't even understand it as a kid too much, but rewatching Labyrinth, I see how much that movie's about taking responsibilities and growing up and becoming an adult. Yeah.
And it's one of those things that you don't notice as a kid, but you see it as an adult, and that's what makes it such a great kids movie.
But it also, as a kid, you don't completely understand it, but I think it's something where it's permeating your subconscious. It's getting in there, and you're learning a valuable lesson. And that's what I was trying to do with Christmas Spoiled. It's about this consumerism, and today Christmas is every day for some, for everyone. You can go buy a $1,500 TV tomorrow. I'm gonna put in my credit card. Christmas, yay! There's all these. It's almost become ridiculous to think that you even need a day where you spoil children because they're constantly being spoiled. And that was kind of the message I was trying to say.
Well, and I like that it's kind of a creepy movie. It's a creepy short. Well, there's a quote, despite how you may or may not feel about the movie, there was a quote from Tim Burton about the Alice in Wonderland movie where he said, "Why have we become so concerned with scaring kids? Being scared is one of the best parts about being a kid."
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I mean, even The Wizard of Oz, that I see as your desktop background right now, but The Wizard of Oz is scary. The flying monkeys are scary. The witch is scary. The stakes are high in that movie. It's life or death. It's not. Oh my God! I hope I can get a new purse. Yeah, I mean that's kind of what the Christmas Spoiled is. Will they see their parents again? Has their greed completely abandoned them and left them to the mercy of the ghost of Christmas future?
Now, if the listeners want to see Christmas Spoiled, is there a certain site that they can go to, or is it just YouTube in general?
Search for it on YouTube or Vimeo, or friend me on Facebook. I'll pretty much accept any friend request. Nick Gregorio.
I need to spell that for him.
Gregorio.
All right. Well, thank you, Nick. And